Hey guys, it's Bridget with San Diego Seed Company, and today we're talking about cucumbers. You know that really funny video? God, I love it. Every time I talk about cucumbers, I think of that video and go, cucumbers, which I'm not doing a good job, but that's my version.
Cucumba.
Cucumba.
Cucumba! Anyways, cucumbers are amazing plants. Everybody loves growing them. They're delicious, and there's so many different varieties of them. Whether you like super skinny, fresh eating ones, whether you like to pickle them, however you like to eat them, there's a variety out there for you, and they're very easy to plant in the garden. I'm gonna show you how I direct sowed them here in my garden, but before I do that, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so you're notified anytime we do a video. So cucumbers are a very diverse crop. There's lots of different varieties. I want to go over some of them to give you an idea. So we have a Garden Sweet Burpless cucumber. What burpless means is it doesn't have those little spines, those little pokey things on the outside of the plant that you see. It's very typical of like pickling cucumbers. This is a great fresh eating cucumber, long, skinny, thin skin, kind of similar to like the Trader Joe's cucumbers that are so delicious. So that's one variety. Then we have a very bizarre variety called lemon cucumber. This variety actually is being produced less and less by large seed companies because, well, it's different. It is a round cucumber. It is not burpless, so it does have some little pokies on the outside that you can rub off with your hands. And they're just different. They grow very quickly. And so if you don't catch them, they can get big and bitter and a little fibrous. So you really want to eat them when they're about the size of a large golf ball, but a really neat variety nonetheless. Then we have munchers, one of my favorite, mostly because we like saying muncher. They're really good, smaller cucumbers, and the name says it all. They're for munching. Half the time they don't even make it inside into the kitchen. We're just chomping on them as we're gardening. National pickling, a super common pickling cucumber that's been around for ages. It produces tons and tons of relatively uniform cucumbers that are great to put in a jar. They're short, they're squat. You could put several in a jar for pickling. That's what those are grown for. Tender green, long, skinny, tapered at the top and the bottom, also great for quick munching, and you get several in a little set, which makes them really nice. Lastly, we have Space Master, really rad variety that's meant for small spaces, hence the name. Oh, and then we have one more, Armenian cucumber, which is a variety that has ribbed skin, very different, something that most people haven't even had before, but really neat. Now this is only a drop in the bucket of all the different varieties of cucumbers that are out there. Find one that you love, that you like the flavor of and the growth habit. For us, we grow everything that we can because I want to try them all, and they all taste very different. If you've been watching our videos, we actually have a new variety from Italy that is on our Ramona farm that we're going to have seed available for at the end of the summer. Super excited about that. These were direct sown about 2 weeks ago, and you can see that they're a little, you can see over here I was really good, got spacing really nice, and then I must have gotten tired, or you know, who knows, a bird came along, but you can see the spacing starts to get not as evenly spaced. Now that is one of the things that happens when you direct sow any crop, particularly cucumbers. Because you're putting them in the soil, a cat can come along, a crow can come along, all kind of things can happen, and you might have some gaps in your garden. Now, this area right here would be a really great space to put another cucumber. And these ones are way too close together. So you can actually thin them. You can just pull them out. This guy, I'm not going to be able to replant him. He's totally done. If I want to utilize these plants that have already sprouted, I can actually dig this up with the trowel very gently and transplant it over here. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I advocate for watering really well before you transplant anything. And I wouldn't do that right now at 10 o'clock in the morning on a hot summer day. I would do that in the cool of the evening to give the plant the most chance to survive the transplant. Now, spacing on cucumbers is important, especially if you're in an area that gets a lot of powdery mildew. So if you're in coastal San Diego or any coastal area of zone 9 or 10, You really want to make sure that you give them appropriate spacing so you're not getting a bunch of powdery mildew and downy mildew and other foliar diseases. So for cucumbers, you want to give them about 4 to 6 inches apart for their spacing to really make sure that they are not competing with each other and that they have good airflow to prevent some of those foliar diseases. Now, for these cucumbers, again, I direct sowed them. I got a little sloppy. I'm gonna have to fix this, but you can see that most of them came up. So cucumbers are very easy to direct sow. You can start them in starter pots and plant them out. But if you have irrigation and you have relatively good soil, it is very easy to direct sow the seed. Now let me show you exactly what that looks like. So the first thing you want to do is get rid of any weeds, anything that's going to compete. This is an amaranth that will totally take over. Want to get rid of that. I just did a little bit of hand pulling here. Next thing is you want to water. That is so incredibly important. You want to make sure that there's plenty of moisture in the soil before you plant, during your planting, after your planting. It's so very important. This watering wand, super cool. I fell in love with these about 5 years ago, and now we offer them on our website because they give the most perfect little stream of water that is aerated, and that happens because of all these holes in this emitter here. It allows for a nice, even, soft watering that is soaked up by the soil very quickly. So these are really great if you need a professional watering device. We now carry these. So I watered before, and as you all know, I'll do some Armenians here. As you all know, my biggest pet peeve in the garden is putting a hole with your finger and then taking a seed and burying it and then enclosing it. Why? Well, because you have no idea how deep you planted that. You also are squishing it together with all this other matter that's going to make it harder to germinate. You're just going to have a lot less success. Instead, the way that I like to transplant, or direct sow, which makes a lot of sense, is to actually just put the seed on top of the soil. There's several benefits to that. One, I can see what my spacing is. I can make sure that I actually put a seed there instead of thinking I did and forgetting. And the other part of it is then I can cover it with really good soil. Now, a pro tip, okay, for the garden is whenever you're direct sowing, you can actually just cover it with high quality potting mix or seed starting mix, which is going to allow the seed to germinate quickly and evenly. I've got some put here in this little sifter, and I'm just going to use this to cover it. Nice, even soil covered over those seeds. It's going to guarantee that they're going to germinate quickly, easily and evenly, because there's not rocks, sticks, piece of mulch on top of the seed. It's really going to make a big difference. We do that for almost every seed that we direct sow, especially on the San Diego garden side, but even on our Ramona side, our actual farm. We do that when we can because you end up having much better seeding rate and much more even germination. So now that I planted those, it's going to take anywhere from 7 to 10 days for those to pop up. The whole time they are germinating, you want to continue to run your irrigation to make sure that the soil is moist so they can germinate and grow. If it dries out at any time, the plants will shrivel up and die and you won't get good germination. Now that these have popped up, what's my next step? Well, as I mentioned, I'm going to want to go through here, thin them out at the correct spacing. And then what I'm going to do is give them a light dose of a fish fertilizer that's just going to get them really pumping in the beginning so that they can grow up this trellis. Cucumbers do need something to grow up to be the most successful. You can grow them on the ground and let them sprawl, but very few people have enough space to actually make that feasible. If you've seen on our YouTube channel, we have another really rad video that we did, I think last week, about trellises, and I show you the different trellises that are at my videographer's garden and how he has his cucumbers trellised. You can use something like a cattle panel, you can use the low and lean method, but the point is if you grow them up vertically, you will get the most bang for your buck, you'll have less disease and pest issues, and you will get tons and tons of cucumbers that don't have holes in them from insects eating them. So It's really the way to go. They're gonna grow up this trellis, they're gonna grab onto them. You can choose to prune them or not. I recommend doing some light pruning of the suckers, which we have a video that we will post a link to so you can watch. How exactly do you prune those suckers? And then you just let them go wild. The most important part about cucumbers is harvesting regularly and often. If you let them go too long, what will happen is one will be hiding behind some foliage and you'll go to harvest it and it will be too big, it will be bitter, and it will be fibrous. Cucumbers are best harvested when they're young and immature before the seeds get too big. That's when they have the most crunch and the most delicious flavor. Okay, so for planting cucumbers, I've gone over the most basic tips that you need to know to direct sow them in your garden. They are a very easy crop, and I would put them next on the line to tomatoes as far as popularity, and for good reason. They're diverse, they're delicious, and they will give you more cucumbers than you possibly can eat in a summer if you follow my tips on how to plant them well.